Hi guys, this is Jonathan Lambert with the Mathematics Development and Support Service at the National College of Ireland. And this short video, another video in our series of videos on Excel basics, is going to deal with two important concepts within Excel. The difference between what's known as absolute referencing and relative referencing. Okay. So maybe just to get started, and let me maybe give you an example, okay, in relation to how relative referencing works, okay. So for example, I have two sets of data here. I have grade 1, okay, this is the grade that a student received on a particular test. Let's say this was exam 1, this is the grade that's associated with that particular exam, and we have a whole sequence of grades here that, that a number of students, 14 students, achieved on that particular exam. And we also have, for each one of these students, okay, we also have another grade associated with their previous grade, which I've labelled here as grade 2, which is their exam score on some second exam that they undertook. Okay? And what I'm interested in initially is, I wonder what the total summation of their overall grade is across both grade 1 and grade 2. Or let's actually call this across exam 1, okay, and exam 2. So what I'd like to be able to do is I'd like to be able to add both of these scores together using, we could use the sum function, or we just simply add them, okay? So for example, I could say the sum is equal to, it's equal to this value here, which is the value in cell C6 plus the value in cell D6, okay? So when I say equals C6 plus D6 here, what that's going to do is it's going to take the contents of cell C6, which is 55, and it's going to add on to that the contents of cell D6, which is 46. When I hit return here, it gives me the value of 101, okay? Now what we could do is we could apply this formula down this particular column, okay? So I could take this formula, click on the lower right hand corner of this box, and I could bring it down into the second pairing of exam scores. Okay, actually, if I double click on this particular cell now, okay, you can actually see what's after happening is it's after taking, I suppose, let's say the formula that was applied previously, okay. Oh, let me just actually get rid of that there, okay. So that's taking the formula that was applied previously, which was the sum of cell C6 and D6, and it's applied that particular pattern down into the next cell, okay. So down on the next cell, it's adding C7 with D7. Okay. Well, this type of referencing is what's known as relative referencing. Okay, it's when we apply a formula, the formula is applied as is all the way down through all possible cells, okay, in a particular row. So I can take this formula again and I can bring it down all the way down to the bottom here, and actually what this does is it sums up each value, okay, associated with a particular row. So for example, 115 here is equal to, if I double click on this, it's equal to the cell C9 plus the cell D9, okay, and it does it in that particular fashion. The next summation, okay, is equal to cell C10 plus cell D10, okay. Now once again, this particular type of referencing, okay, where we have the formula is moving down through the cells. You can see that the formula is moving, okay, all the way down through the particular cells. You can see in this case here we have, when we add the two values together, this time it's C14 plus D14, okay. This is known as relative referencing, as opposed to what's called absolute referencing. So for example, say if I want to take the sum, okay, that we've previously calculated here, okay, and say if I want to add on a specific value to it. In this case, I want to add on 5, okay. Let's see what happens if we do this particular process the way we did it with relative referencing. So if I say this is equal to, it's equal to the sum, and let's say it's plus, and I want to add on this value here, the value 5, okay. So let me just specify D2 here by clicking on that cell, and what I get is I get 106, which is 101 plus 5, okay. But let's see what happens when I apply this formula down this column, okay. So when I apply this formula down to the next cell, okay, well, let's see what's happening here. When I double click on this cell here, you can see what's happened is it's moved the, well, in the previous example, yeah, okay, it was cell E6 plus cell D2, okay. When I move the formula down, okay, into this particular cell here, what it's done is it's actually moved both positions that were specified in the previous formula down one position. So in the previous formula that was specified here, okay, it's actually now shifted that down to add in E7 plus the cell under D3. Okay. Now we don't want that to happen. What we would like is that when I shift this particular formula, the formula that I've specified here, when I shift this down, I would like the cells that are listed in the column E to shift down, but I would like this value to remain stationary here. Okay? And this is what's known as absolute referencing. Okay? So to do that, to actually do absolute referencing within Excel, it's actually quite straightforward. So what I'm going to say here is that this is equal to the value 101, the value that's specified in cell E6, plus I would like to specify the value that's specified in cell D2. But I want cell D2 to remain stationary when I drag this formula down through this particular column. So to make D2 stationary, what we do is we wrap it in dollar signs, okay? So we put a dollar before the column label and a dollar after the column label, okay? So let's see what happens when I do that. So when I hit that, I get 106, which is 101 plus 105. Okay, let's apply the formula down one cell. So I'm going to drag the formula down one cell and apply it. Now let's see what I have. Well, the cell in the E column has shifted down one, but actually the cell in D2 has remained stationary. Okay, and this is what absolute referencing is allows us to, I suppose, hold a specific value stationary within an Excel worksheet. Okay, so I can take all of these values here, or this particular formula that's specified in the G column, and I can drag them down all the way down through the cells, okay, and apply them. So let's choose this particular value here, 143. So what is 143? Well, you can see it's 138 plus the stationary 5. Okay. What about this 141? Well, 141 is the 136 plus the stationary 5. Okay. So what's actually happening here once again is that we've made the formula, okay, contain an absolute reference to a specific cell, as opposed to what's known as a relative reference. So when we use relative references, so for example in this case here, the cells that are composed within the formulas, the important thing about the cells in the formulas is that they don't have any dollar signs wrapped around their column labels. Okay, that's what relative referencing actually looks like from a syntax perspective. The column labels or the cell references themselves, yeah, have no dollar signs around the column labels. Okay, that means that everything in the cell is a relative reference. Okay, as opposed to when I consider one of these cells over here, you can see that E7. Okay, well, E7 is a relative reference, which means if I drag this down, okay, well then that cell is going to get dragged down with the dragging process. But you can see that D2 is the column label, which is D, is wrapped in dollar signs, okay? So D is actually specified here to be an absolute reference, which means when I drag this particular formula down, okay, the E7 will change to E8, but the D2 will stay as D2. Okay, when I drag it down one position. Okay, so that's the difference. That's, I suppose, the fundamental difference between absolute referencing and relative referencing. Relative referencing allows us to move formulas, okay, and apply formulas relative to specific cells within our Excel worksheet, whereas absolute referencing allows us to, I suppose, keep a value fixed that doesn't change when we actually drag a formula down particular columns, or when we drag a formula across particular rows within Excel. Okay guys, once again, this was Jonathan Lambert with the Mathematics Development and Support Service at the National College of Ireland. And I hope this video dealing with absolute referencing and relative referencing within Excel, okay, was some way intuitive and helpful. So once again, thanks for your time for watching.